Glad to see a lot of familiar faces on the call today, and excited to talk about the survey. Um, a few months ago, two ALS warriors were messaging each other in the middle of the night about ideas to help people with their clinic experience. It sounds odd to do in the middle of the night, but when Kylan reveals who they are in a moment, you won't be surprised. And they were talking about things like, what if you had the ability to see what people living with ALS had to say about their clinic? What if you had the ability to find the highest rated clinics in a specific region? And what if the clinics had the ability to see our experiences and the expectations we have for them when we're at the clinic? And that's the ALS Clinic Survey. Um, so what we'll do today is we'll give you an overview of the survey, how you could use the information to benefit you or people you know, and we'll let you take it too. And for those who have taken it already or don't qualify, qualification is you have to be a person living with ALS or a caregiver living with ALS who have been to an ALS clinic in the last 2 years. If you don't qualify for that, use that opportunity to give us feedback on what you think, or we'll answer any questions that you might have. So let's talk about the authors of the survey. Kylan?
Right. Hi, everyone. For those that do not know me, my name is Kylan Morris. I think that you do know my mom, however, Sandy Morris. She certainly was an uncomfortable disruptor in her 4.5 years with this disease. So, Mom, I'm sure that you have popped on a Zoom call and heard her yapping about some broken area in ALS land that she was trying to fix in her years. So this is the beginning, really, of Pat Dolan and Sandy Morris collaboration. So when Jack was speaking earlier about late night messaging, it comes at no surprise that that was Sandy Morris and Pat. And if you guys don't know Pat, then you need to. You probably already should. He's an amazing geographer, and he is a person living with ALS who is changing the landscape with his eyeballs, just as Mom did. They tore up that eye gaze technology, didn't they? Mom did, and Pat still does. And so this late night messaging talking about this ALS clinic survey couldn't have come at a more perfect time, because Mom was assembling a new crew, if you will, the R1 crew, to continue her work in high priority projects that she wasn't going to be able to have the time to continue on with. And so this brings us to the R1 crew carrying on Sandy Morris's baton. And that began with the ALS Clinic Survey, but our overall mission really is to continue seeing a broken area in ALS land, fixing it, and then so on and repeating that, just as Mom did. And so with my family's experience in clinics, mom hit the ground running. And so she spent many late nights researching what was going to be the best route for her in finding and navigating her care route in this crazy storm that was the diagnosis of her. And so basically, Mom, we live rural. We're 3.5 hours away from San Francisco. And so once we do get into the city, we have a great more options, but it takes a family to get you into the city and be almost nearly paralyzed, and that takes a demise. So we would have really been set up well to know what we were looking for when we went to these clinics. We ended up loving the clinic options that we had once we were in the city, but for us and being able to prolong Mom in her ALS life, we were looking for clinical trials and research that was going to keep her with us as long as possible. I wish that we would have had a tool like this in our toolkit when we were first diagnosed. So this is us finding that broken area and being able to move forward with it. So every step of the way of the creation of this survey is intertwined with the Morris ALS Principles. If you're not familiar with the Morris ALS Principles, that is a set of expectations and boundaries in ALS land for all stakeholders in ALS land, to really take hold of your care and make sure that you're making the most of your time. As we all know, we lost the luxury of time upon diagnosis. And so anything that we can set out to do to easier for a newly diagnosed family that's the goal of R1, and especially in this ALS clinic survey. as we are the experts in our own disease. And I'm going to send this right back over to Jack, and he's going to take us through some of the survey insights that we've seen so far.
So some of the things that when you think about a survey, you think about Yelp or a TripAdvisor, and it is analogous to this because we're capturing valuable information that consumers want to see before they make a decision. This survey takes it one step further. The information that we capture is going to be presented to you through insights of valuable information that you can use when you're selecting an ALS clinic. Examples like this are travel distance to clinics. So if people are driving this far, they want to be prepared ahead of time. Moreover, they want to know if the clinic's worth it. You just heard Kylan talk about her story of driving 3 to 4 hours. That takes a toll on the ALS body. They're fatigued, they're tired for the next couple of days, they're run down. So is driving that distance going to make it worth it? Other things, they want to know what doctors are being anticipatory or reactionary to their fast disease progression. The other thing is they want to know about clinical trials. That's what we've found. We've actually beta tested this with a prominent ALS clinic on the East Coast, and then with Live Like Lou Foundation. We found that clinical trials, clinical trial information, that's really important. And a lot of these clinics aren't even presenting that information. So I'm going to tell you which ones to do and some other insights based on that. Of course, we're going to give you the overall rating. That is like, again, every Yelp and TripAdvisor. If you want to benchmark this, if you only want to see excellent clinics rated good and excellent, you're going to be able to do that by thresholding those. We have the survey integrity and survey anonymity piece. These are both paramount to the survey. So each survey is reviewed before posted on the dashboard. It will be reviewed by the survey moderator. That's our own Gretchen Duffy. She's on the call today. She's going to make sure things are adhering to the survey guidelines. No defamatory language is acceptable. Finally, kind of bridging that is clinics can respond to a survey by email, and their response will appear in the dashboard. We want full transparency. We want clinics to have a voice too, and that could only be achieved if they share their side of the story. And hopefully too, in the long run, that could elevate the standard of care across the board. And the clinics will get a summary of all the reports per month. Right now we have 75, I think, above 75 surveys taken, over 60 clinics, over 75 surveys. The goal at the end of this call is to have 100 surveys taken. The information that's used when it's collected, it's going to be put into the dashboard that we're going to show you. So think about if you have a clinic that has 2 reviews versus a clinic that has 10 reviews or 7 reviews. We want to give you that more holistic picture, which means we need more people taking the survey. So without further ado, Kylan, if you want to drop the link in the Zoom
chat.
In the chat, thank you. We invite people to take the survey right now. It takes about 8 minutes. You can go mute yourself, go dark. If you have taken it already, we invite questions or feedback on the survey. And then after you guys are done, we'll regroup. I want to show you the insights. So like after you take the survey, which you're going to be able to see, and I'll walk you through that. And we'll part ways with any final questions you might have.
So anyone not taking the survey right now, we're here to answer any questions that you might have.
So I wanted to offer some feedback.
Please,
First,
Jim.
Yeah, no. First, I think this is just terrific and needed to happen. And I think it will really drive positive change, especially as the information is shared. One thing is if we can, in each of our localities, if we can get people to take the survey, then of course we'll have more people, we'll have more information, and that will be so much more useful because 1 or 2 people at a clinic, can have vastly different experiences for whatever reason, and it skews the data. So more people is going to be really, you've mentioned this, but I'm just underscoring that. We are starting a family and patient support group, advisory council to the clinic here at UVA. And this will definitely go on as a top priority for us to get it out to people at UVA or across Virginia, really, to start filling this out, because, it could be really terrific. One thing about the survey, and I know it's done, so I'm not suggesting necessarily it has to be changed, but I want to offer, and I know you did beta testing, but I want to just offer some personal experience from having taken the survey.
Yeah, we love that. By no means is this, this is a final product for this release, but other feedback is welcome for future releases. So please, by all means. Okay, great. So at UVA, each clinic I've been to as an ALS patient is a multi-D clinic. So a number of the questions related to the doctor, I found difficult to answer, because some of the stuff that was asked actually was sort of taken care of by somebody else on the team. And so that was a little confusing to me. I didn't really exactly know how to respond, because I didn't really want to downgrade my doctor, because it was all happening in the clinic, but it wasn't really happening with the doctor. And that was disappointing to me, actually, when it was reflected here in the survey. I was like, well, actually, I would have liked my doctor to ask me these questions and for us to have this conversation, and not necessarily for it to be relegated. Absolutely. Yeah. So to clarify, it's not under the purview necessarily of the neurologist at a multidisciplinary clinic. It could be someone else who's charging that. Right. So, right. Okay. That's really important. So, and I just wrote that down too. So, okay, we'll make note of that and see how we can parse, or we can separate those. Yeah, I just begin to think about the fact that's really happening in a lot of clinics, I think, and how to sort that out or hear from that would be important. The other thing is that I have found that if I bring something up, they're willing to talk about it, but it's not offered. So I may come with ideas about trials or other things, and they're willing to talk about it, but it behooves me to come ready with my information and questions. And I find that to be, I'm a very educated person. I'm a doctor. My wife's a doctor. We're like, educated in the sense of the medical stuff. I know where to look, and I'm thinking about this stuff, and they anticipate that from us because we're both doctors at UVA, et cetera. But that's a very unique situation. It's this extremely unique situation, and I realize that. And it's disappointing to me that there's not more coming forward, and on two levels. One, when I go to clinic, I'm a doctor, but I'm a pediatrician. I really want to be a patient. I really want to be treated like everybody else. And engaged as I understand things from a scientific point of view or whatever, but I want to be a patient. And then likewise, I was talking about this with a couple of my friends that have ALS too. We just feel like it shouldn't be all on us to come up with all the ideas and be super prepared, and then feel like if we didn't uncover the rock, then and we missed out on something because we didn't know to look. It should be in their wheelhouse to be helping us with this as well.
Quickly, Jim, I couldn't agree more with you. Frankly, my family, my mom coined it the yo-yo disease. You're on your own. And so with information like this, there's going to be a PDF link on here that you're going to be able to print this out and bring this to clinic too, if you're expecting to get an answer that is of more depth, that you're not just putting it in, like you said, their wheelhouse. You're taking the control back. You're saying, why am I not being asked about the clinical trial enrollment that's available to me and that it is currently enrolling? Unfortunately, in ALS land, it is all things broken, and we need to take a hold of that. And while it would be so nice if everybody had this set of questions to ask going forward, they typically don't. And that was my experience with clinic with my mom. So if we can get this printed out, bring it in and say, why am I not being asked these questions? Then we're elevating our standard of care also.
Great. Wonderful.
Thank you,
And
Jim, for
Jim,
your input. Seriously, that's awesome.
so Jim, so some of what we're hearing today, in terms of like how we're defining a current state, that kind of speaks to one of the issues is the, one is new patient onboarding. There's either no new patient packet or one that's like overwhelming, no significant face time with doctors, and people living with ALS, caregivers living with ALS. Sorry, I'm trying to get used to not saying pals and cows.
Morris ALS
Are
Principles.
being more educated or playing Google Doctor and know more than the clinic staff. So we're trying, obviously this is for you to make your best decision, but also to elevate the standard on their end. So Jim, how do you envision that, like, your kind of concern there? Do you want this to be a part of the survey, like follow through, for lack of a better word, on this? Or, because you said they're open to discussion, but then that's it. Or do you want this to be reflected through, like, a new standardization across the board in all clinics?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many possibilities.
Right. Yeah, there are. I just kind of
Jack, I
wanted
think
to know
that's
how you're
yeah.
thinking about it.
Well, first, I want to endorse that the new patient, what you just nailed it there. Either it's like zero or it's completely overwhelmed. And people come to me locally because I'm a doctor and I have ALS, just to help sort out what to do next. And I've actually created my own little mini packet. And I actually refer them a lot to stuff at I'm ALS and otherwise, but it's just a huge problem. And I think, specific things on there would be really great. I love the idea that it can be printed out. And then I just think if this is going to be available and, there's going to be ongoing data, then each of us can just, like print what's there for our clinic and send it along and say, hey, it looks like there's some work to be done or some improvement that could be made. And I think getting the data first that's reliable and then figuring out how to use it to affect change. They're linked, but they're separate. And
Yeah, they are.
Absolutely. And we had discussed if clinics got to a place where they were comfortable with it too, Jim, that there could be a QR code. There could be a way for them to be gathering this information themselves as well. Because if we're keeping it transparent, gosh, like, we don't want to keep anyone in the dark. People living with ALS want their caregivers and the care that they receive at clinic to be known as well. So if we can keep this glass door of understanding, I feel like we're going to be miles ahead after we can get the database filled. And I want to catch up on chats really quick. Shelley said, I shared the survey with my clinic neurologist. Oh, and then also, sorry, Pat above said, how often should I take the survey? After every clinic or once a year? And then Jack shared that link. Shelley said, I shared the survey with my clinic neurologist. He's going to share it with clinic patients, which is awesome. Thank you, Shelley. Gretchen said, thank you, Shelley. And then Ashley says, are VA clinics going to be included in this option list?
So yeah, I'll take the question. How often should you fill out the survey? Once every visit or once a year? The answer is once a year. Gretchen, do you want to take that other question?
Yeah. So Ashley's question about VA clinics.
Yeah.
So VA clinics are included and should be available in that list, Ashley. So if you don't see something that should be in there, let us know. We're also very seriously considering a question asking about veteran status or prior military service. And that's all based on feedback from the community as well during our initial round of testing.
One other thing I wanted to add really quickly. In a former life, I was the chief medical officer for an integrated network, clinically integrated network. And a large part of my job was surveying quality across the hundreds of practices that we had and following that and then benchmarking it and then presenting it back to the network so that we actually rated the clinics by quality and by prearranged quality metrics. And this, I was a little nervous about at first, but it was a very powerful way of driving change and quality improvement because no one wants to be in the bottom quartile of any list, especially doctors. So even, I would just think that once you get going with this, you might think about, setting up a rating in some way that lists publicly how people rate on, and you could break it down into different chunks. It could be an overall rating. It could be related to certain interdisciplinary services. It could be about new patient. It could be about, clinical trial presentation. You could do a lot of different things, but presenting that data in a stratified way can be a very powerful way to affect change.
Jack, that might be a good segue. If people are still taking the survey, that's fine too. But do you want to pull up the results dashboards? We can show what it looks like now.
Want to look at this? Some of today's biggest and most successful organizations use dashboards to make like the most important decisions. So why not make one for the ALS community to benefit from too? By sharing your experience, by everyone on this call sharing their experiences, you guys telling other people to share their experiences will really benefit, because we're able to show them metrics that are most important to them, and enough that could make a difference for their own decision. So here you see info on ALS clinics, everything you care about in one place, so it's easy to digest and allow you to make those decisions. On the upper left corner here is a list of clinics that have been surveyed. Alphabetical order shows the overall rating. Also, as you know, it shows years attending the clinic. So I wanted to show the years to help the quality of type of the response. For example, I'd be more interested in seeing the response of someone who has been at the clinic for several years over a person who just started to attend the clinic. The map below here shows all clinics in the US, not just the ones that have been surveyed, but every clinic. Thanks for bringing that to our attention, Ashley, so we can add that one. And the upper pie chart here is it is the summary of the overall clinic rating, so you can filter by rating type. If I want to see excellent clinics, I can just click here, and as you'll see on the left, only the excellent ones are populated. However, if you want to see good and excellent, maybe you're not as fortunate to be in an area where there's not a lot of excellent ones, or maybe there's only one or two. You want to see the good and the excellent. Lower pie chart, summary of the person who took the survey. It's important because you want to think about it from person living with ALS perspective, caregiver living with ALS perspective, and kind of what that means. Caregiver might be interested in admin, ease of scheduling, and then the person living with ALS thinks about things differently. Finally, on the right here, all the full responses that you got when you took the survey. So from the neurologist standpoint, so if I went in here and I clicked on, or I put in Loma Linda, for example, there's 3 ratings, and I clicked on the one that has an excellent review. And from that excellent review, I'm drilling down into what the neurologist said. I can see that strongly agrees on giving thorough exams, and then also made a comment on the wonderful care. And you're able to do that through all those sections that you took the survey in. You see them presented on this information that you're kind of like consuming really quickly. So therapies and services, clinical trials, clinical admin, again, those sections that you took the survey on are available to you through these insights here. Kylan, you want to take us out of here with an ask?
I do. Carol, in the chat really quickly, have you considered sending ratings to each clinic admin, perhaps twice a year, to take the onus off of patients and let clinics see there is an org behind this effort? Definitely are in conversations. Clinics is our next kind of step in starting to bring them into the conversation here as well, Carol. And then our homework. Mom never let a meeting go without a little bit of homework. So here I am to ask you all, please do follow us on Twitter, the R1 crew that's going to be continuing the information and the updates that are happening, as well as, next, you can email us at R1surveyteam.
I'm not seeing another slide after.
Oh, well, that's fine. I'm going to drop in the chat. There's some verbiage that we would love if you would share with your social media networks that basically says, I took the survey. Please feel free to take the survey as well. Thank you all for being here and just making this project better. I mean, we are all truly better together. So thanks for being here. And we look forward to more correspondence in the future.